Welcome back to Digital DNA. We're in the Upstart Startup Zone. My name's Alistair Cameron from Starticus, and I am joined by Stephanie from Farming Carbon. Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm really good. How are you today?
I'm knackered already. It's like 8 interviews in. I've got another 10 to go, so I'm probably going to be talking, waxing lyrical at some point.
Do you want me to help make that process a little bit easier for you?
I would love you to do all the talking
Okay.
and tell me what Farming Carbon is about.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Well, before we do that, I actually just heard a really good joke. Do you want to hear it?
I would love to.
Okay. So there were two wind turbines trying to get to know each other, and one of them said, "What kind of music do you like?" And the other one said, "Well, I'm a big metal fan."
Not too sure if that's a dad joke or not. I think it probably is.
I believe it. I believe that was a dad joke.
That one is to tell my dad because he's full of them.
Yeah, well, and he can keep it in his reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Repertoire.
You know.
Very good, very on point. Tell me about Farming Carbon. Like, what is it you guys are up to?
So Farming Carbon helps businesses with their environmental impact, social value, and the governance that works around that. So it's called ESG, and it's really all about the sustainability of businesses. We do that through facilitating projects on local farms, and the tech innovation that we're working on is actually to quantify that impact. So ask farmers to make certain changes and then actually quantify the impact of those changes, which could be increased carbon retention or other environmental impacts that would benefit all of us.
So how easy is it to get farmers on board? Like, obviously, is there some pushback on that, or are they quite receptive?
It really depends. So I have some farmers that are really innovative, pioneering technologies, and they are happy to facilitate sensors and have the conversation and hear me out. I have other farmers that take one look at me, and I am a woman under 40 and I'm not a farmer, and they're like, yeah, you're not telling me how to farm, which is exactly right. I'm not telling them how to farm. I'm trying to give them the tools so that they can understand the data that is collected from their farm and then use an agronomist. Again, potentially we could finance that agronomist through as the organisation grows. But sometimes I'm sort of laughed out of the room, and that's fine because I know that they just don't understand how I could possibly be the person that's advising this. But I think the unique value that I have is the relationships that I have with businesses, though, and businesses that are spending money in ESG are actually very potentially allies of the farmers who are willing to change.
You're clearly, one, very well versed in what you're talking about, and secondly, probably just as knowledgeable, if not more, than the farmers themselves. So the kickback on that to me is like, that's not a good enough reason. I can understand if a farmer might not be interested in sustainability or not understand it, but the reason that you mentioned there, it sucks. I'm guessing that we still need to do more as an industry to kind of get past that kind of stuff, don't we? Yeah,
definitely. Although I think there's a lot of caveats just sort of to keep in mind, which I never really mind whenever I'm kind of I am broached with that kind of mentality, because farmers are isolated by nature. They are literally out in the middle of nowhere. Normally their human contact comes in the form of the news or the newspapers or conversations that are being had on TV, and they do seem to have a general consensus that the world is slagging them off and that they don't really understand what it takes to be a farmer. And I actually would, if someone thought that I didn't know enough to tell them, I would actually disagree with them, and I would say, you're right, I don't know enough to tell you, but I'm going to find people that know more than I know, more than you know, and the two of us will learn together, because that actually helps change the conversation away from...
That's really good answer.
I think it's quite important to really empower them. And the thing is, 65% of Northern Ireland is farmland.
Yeah.
We can plant trees till the cows come home, and planting trees is also a part of our business, but we really need to find space for food and productivity to be a part of a more sustainable future.
This is an economic reason for farmers to be interested in this as well. So I'm guessing there's quite a lot of scalability on this. Do you see, obviously, for across Europe or maybe obviously even into the States?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the month of November living in Catalonia in Spain on part of a sustainability innovators thing run by the EU. And I have a network of farmers there that are absolutely, now they don't farm like we do, they don't have grassland, they don't have cows, but they do have olive groves and vineyards and they farm rice. Same problems, totally different business models. And actually, if we were able to find the system that can quantify that in a way that makes sense and have the quantification produce data that's useful to businesses that they can include in part of their non-financial sustainability reporting, we are on to a winner, and we can definitely make it financially an opportunity for farmers and increase that equity in the rural community, which at the minute urban areas have a lot more wealth and rural areas tend to have less investment in infrastructure. What if we kind of help to balance that out a bit?
So it's like, let's take a step back. Like, how did you come up with this idea? Like, what is your background that got you to this point?
So I actually have such a weird background, but I did a business degree with a specialty in hospitality, and I moved to America for a year as a part of that, and I worked in a golf club in the Hamptons in New York. So I worked for like the richest 1% of Americans. And then from there, I was like, here, these boys are class and they tip well and this is fantastic. In my early 20s, I thought I'm going to move and I'm going to work on super yachts. So I went and I worked 5 years experience in maritime, and that was great, really good opportunity to travel the world and get paid while you're doing it. But I did a lot of community organising, so every afternoon free, and I spent a lot of time by the ocean, would have done community litter picks, done like really trying to get people to raise money for charities like saving plastic in the ocean and things like that, and loved it. That was that was what I got up for. You know, going to work was one thing, but the things I did in the evenings really made me happy. And I also got exposure to entrepreneurs who took a chance. It went really well, and they are there now in the lap of luxury, having the best life ever. So I was motivated to definitely become a self-starter, like, you know, do it myself, not get stuck into a corporate. How could I go from working on super yachts, having the afternoon free in the south of France, to just turning the wheel in a 9 to 5? It was never going to happen. And when I came home, and it was in the middle of COVID, my uncles are all farmers, they're essential workers, and we were for the first time having a conversation about that essentialness. And I just sort of thought, I wonder who else is doing this, let's see. And there's not another organisation that facilitates empowering farmers in the same way. There's very few sustainability, even, you know, opportunity, or not opportunities, but that for businesses it's lacking. For farmers it's even more lacking. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to just see if I can do it. So I started to work with a neighbouring farmer who's exceptionally innovative, and he gave me a year of his time, meeting him for 4 hours a week, and he explained the nuts and bolts of how this works, the profitability, how it can improve their quality of life. It reduces their exposure to really harmful chemicals. There's loads and loads of benefits for the farmer aside from the economic opportunity that they don't even know about because they've never really thought about it. So that was how I got here, and then things have just sort of, it's just when a ball starts to roll, somehow you don't even know how you got to this point.
And you're part of the Raise cohort, is that right?
Yeah, I am part of the Raise cohort.
Okay, cool. So like Raise Ventures, they're in Belfast, but they really service entrepreneurs wider than just NI, really, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, and a part of, I was on the panel earlier with Raise, and one of the things I said is you become a reflection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to bring you up to the next level. And whenever you're, even on the Slack board, the Friday wins or whatever we're doing, like the Raise community is a place that facilitates massive growth. There's nobody there being like, you're going to do that. Are you joking? Like, that just doesn't exist. It's always like, yeah, cool, how are you going to do it? Where are you going next? And the accountability of having being on a mentor program as well, it's second to none. There's nothing, like, I'm never going to chat to myself in the mirror in a calm and assertive way, you know, like in a way that's nice to me. I'll either be like, you lazy brute, get up and get it done, or it'll be like, oh, don't worry about it today.
Well, if you know you've got, it's not that you're reporting into anyone, but if you've got to go around a round table and say, how have you achieved or what have you done, it suddenly becomes something where you feel a sense of ownership, obviously, and
Yeah.
also accountability, which is two things, obviously, that sometimes startups, obviously, don't have to do or don't report to. So it's kind of good to have that
Yeah.
structure, isn't it?
And also the conversations that you're having. So if you're sitting with 8 people and we're all talking about what we're doing, if like all the people that I know and all the people that I'm kind of keeping tabs on, someone else in the room might say, "Oh, I'm really looking for a software developer who does X, Y, Z," and I'll say, "Hey, I had a coffee with someone like that the other day," and the same goes for me. Like, and I just find that I get introductions to. The sustainability managers of
Yeah.
big corporates that have a budget for this, or to really innovative people that are
Yeah.
willing to help me actually bring the service to life.
Yeah.
So
Well, so like finally, I'm going to go back to the fact that you mentioned, obviously, the tech element of what you're doing. Like, where are you at with that? Like, how is that coming together?
So I think sometimes when you have a really big vision that you believe in, somehow you just trick people into joining you, and you don't even mean to, and you're like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" But I had a meeting with a software developer, amazing, and I told her, give her a 60-second pitch. I was on a call with a group of people, and she emailed me and she said, "I'm really interested. Could we have a chat?" And I said to her, "Look, I don't have any money to do this right now, but this is what I want to do, and this is what I want." Well, I told her everything I wanted to do first, and then I said, "Oh, but look, I'm skint. I don't know how I'm going to do that." And she goes, "Well, I actually was an academic for a really long time, and I'm really good at applications, and there's a big pot of money that we could go for." And I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, and it's going to be really undersubscribed because I don't think anybody knows about it." So she ended up completing an entire application of funding to pay her
Amazing.
own salary so that she could work
Wow.
with me to help me achieve this platform. So the MVP will be finished in like September, October time.
Yeah.
We are going to have community outreach in late July and August in all like 6 locations across Northern Ireland, and really try and have the conversation with the farmers so the platform does sort of reflect something that they can imagine is usable, but also obviously is functional in terms of the ESG data and that being what we need it to be,
Yeah.
because essentially the revenue comes from the businesses who are being forced by the government to quantify their ESG. So that has to be really, really thorough and legit. And then I just think that farming is as big of an opportunity as forestry, as kelp under the sea and anything else. So we just need to facilitate the education of those people and all the added benefits of food security, the local economy. There's so many ways in which empowering farmers to do better just helps us all. So
Stephanie, I see a real sturdy determination in obviously everything that you're doing. It's quite exciting for me to listen to you talk as well. So I'm really delighted to hear about what you're doing.
Thanks.
Let's revisit this in 12 months and see where you're at. But I think I can see things are going in the right direction. I see that passion for yourself.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we'll be back with more startup chats in the Upstart Startup Zone and Digital DNA very soon. Thank you.